Hey, welcome back to Opinions on Everything. Today, we're going to hear Keith's opinions on everything. And by everything, I mean politics and economics and social issues. We're going to take the political compass test. I don't know if you've heard of it. If you go to politicalcompass.org, it kind of gives you a bunch of questions to see where you stand on the political and economic and social spectrum. And I've done this before with my wife, but Keith has never heard these questions, and honestly, we're both kind of idiots, so if we have to look something up, I'm sorry for the pause. We're going to try to work with what we know currently about politics and economics, and these are just our opinions. Feel free to disagree with us, and this is how it will go.
So I'm Keith, and I'm about to give my opinions, whether it's informed or not informed. I like to think I'm usually halfway informed, but the second he asks a question about some acronym that I've got no clue of, we'll have to figure that out on the fly.
Okay, and so as I was telling him before, the options for his answers are strongly disagree, agree, and strongly agree. And it will help put him on the spectrum. So here we go. Question number 1. If economic globalization is inevitable, like it's going to happen regardless, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interest of transnational corporations.
Strongly agree. I don't want globalism to occur. It's inevitable, but it needs and unbelievably has to serve the people and not the market, not the
big businesses. Yeah.
Please, for everything on the love of earth, do not support the big businesses with that.
So we're going to focus in on his answers. I'm going to give my opinions just as quick answers. It should probably serve humanity rather than the interests of corporations. I agree. I don't strongly agree. I don't think businesses work that way. I went to school for finance, and it just is not very reasonable to expect it all to be for the people. It's got to provide some sort of profit if we're going to exist in this capitalist society we exist in.
Well, that's the problem I'm getting into then.
We'll get into capitalism.
Yeah.
Okay, so question 2. I'd always support my country, whether it was right or wrong.
Strongly disagree.
Strongly. Tell me why.
I believe that nationalism is a good thing to have in some aspects.
Yeah.
But it is not saying that you don't follow, you don't jump off a bridge when somebody just tells you to. And if you disagree with your country, you disagree with it. And not every decision that a country makes, whether it be President Obama calling predator strikes with black information that he had and killing terrorists, but also killing families. Civilians. I will never support that in any way, and I won't follow a country into supporting that. I will speak my mind. I love that the country we live in has free speech, so I can say that.
Yeah.
I support that every time, but I'm not going to support a country that doesn't have a moral or a backing that I believe in. So
okay. Question 3. I also disagree. I don't always support my country, by the way. No one chooses his or her country of birth, so it is foolish to be proud of it.
I disagree.
Yeah?
I don't think it's foolish to be proud of your country.
Where you're from.
Where you're from, where your roots are, the people that you live with, people you grew up with. Just like, that's like saying you're not proud of your family. I'm proud of my dad, my brother, my sister, and my mom, and everything they did. I didn't choose them.
Right.
But I feel like that I was changed of it. I'm proud to come from them. I'm proud to come from America, where we can have freedom of speech, where we can love one another and have a good society and do a lot as we please. So I would say that I disagree with it being foolish, even though we don't decide.
Right. I'm with you. I think that's probably the right call. Our race has many superior qualities compared with other races.
I'm not even going to... Should I even answer that? Strongly disagree.
Thank you.
That's foolish and folly, and there have been a lot of really bad thoughts that have come out in the last 2 years, and and people who have been in the closet, apparently racist closet or closet racists, that have come out, and I just wish that they go back in the closet because I was like, oh my goodness, this is absurd. I didn't even know that half this was a thing. But yeah, the thought that somebody is less intelligent because of their race is asinine and is of the past, and I really wish that we would get over this.
Yeah, there's a lot of false science and a lot of false reports that have been done over the years about how different races have different biological makeup, and whether that be physical or mental, it's just false. And the thing that defines quality of people is not your race; it's simply where you came from, your history, and what you choose to do with it.
Yeah,
and so that's where we stand. Next, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So, and the example I'll pose to you is, let's say Russia is our enemy.
Yep.
And let's say North Korea is our enemy. But let's say Russia says, hey, I also don't like North Korea. So does that make Russia our friend?
I mean, I go back to World War II.
Yeah.
The enemy of our enemy was Russia.
Yeah.
So Germany's enemy was Russia. That doesn't mean Germany is our friend.
No.
And what Stalin did was worse in a lot of cases than what Hitler did.
Yeah, it was
but
atrocious.
we still teamed up with him, which doesn't fully make sense to me, and I bat my finger at sometimes. But no, the enemy of your enemy is not your friend in any case. You have to take a moral stance. You have to be willing to stand your ground, and if both your enemy of your enemy and just your enemy are doing the wrong thing, then they're just both your enemy.
So you strongly disagree or disagree?
I disagree.
Okay. Because we see the use of using, which sounds bad, to use the enemy of another enemy to work against that common enemy, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're our friend. We just have an ally.
Yeah.
Temporary ally.
Yeah.
So, military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. So, for example, the Geneva Convention, right, says no chemical weapons anymore. Yeah. Obviously, that's not something you're going to support, chemical weapons, but that sort of law. Is there ever a scenario where the U.S. or any other country exceeding that international agreed upon law of military warfare is okay, justified?
Is this just warfare?
Military action, yeah.
I don't think that is really ever justified.
Okay. So strongly disagree?
So I disagree.
Disagree, okay.
Yeah,
So, for example, I think, I may be wrong, but I believe assassination is also outlawed. I know it is for America, even though I'm sure we're assassinating people all the time. But would it have been okay if it was to assassinate Hitler, for example?
I come back to the scandal of grace and God's grace every time. And that Jesus calls us to love our enemies.
Right.
Love our enemies as ourselves, and I don't think that assassinating, murdering, war, or any of that is loving your enemy, and I don't think that is the grace of God. I think God loves all of His people. I know that blasphemy is a thing, and unforgivable sin, but I'll leave that to God and not support war. I think the Geneva Convention does a lot of good with limiting war, of course, and yeah, I disagree with that.
Okay, I'm with you. There is now a worrying combination of information and entertainment. Is news too entertaining now? Like, is the combination dangerous?
Yes, yeah. I agree.
Strongly?
I'd strongly agree with that.
I would too.
I think that you give the people what they want.
Yeah.
As the famous quote comes, give the people what they want.
Sex sells, also violence does.
Yeah. Violence sells, whether you're watching The Gladiator and you're waiting for the thumbs up or thumbs down because you're giving the people what they want.
Yeah.
The news and the media is going to talk about, just yesterday, the headline was the plane in Russia that went down. And what do you want to hear as an American? That Russians died, and just because we're at this fusion or whatever with Russia. And that they want to hear about this plane wreck or this bad thing that happened, not the. And then right after that, the second headline was, a gay couple that was 100 years old, that probably helped out a lot of people going through hard times through homosexuality, and that wasn't the headline, even though I thought it was a more interesting story. It may not have aligned with my views, but it was kind of the more interesting story of two veterans who just got out of war, who were in World War II and the Vietnam War, and they were 70 and 100, and
yeah, I saw that.
They had a rekindled love and got married, and I thought that was a lot more interesting story than just a plane wreck. But
it is a tragedy.
Yeah.
And so tragedies sell.
Yeah, tragedies sell.
And I would also say the worrying fusion of information and entertainment falls into social media as well. Too many people get their news directly from social media, and you're going to get what you are signed up for, essentially. If you're in your bubble of conservatism, you're going to get conservative viewpoints, and same with liberal. And so it just leads to a lot of misinformation and a lot of bigotry against the other side. Maybe not bigotry, but you know what I mean. Dislike, disdain. All right. Next question. People are ultimately divided more by class than by nationality. Are we more separated by economic class than we are by where we live?
You know, I think that we are, but it's more of a subliminal separation, where the poor Americans feel more connection to other Americans than to poor people from Saudi Arabia. But I think that's kind of false, because the rich Americans feel more connected to rich people in other countries than poor people in their countries. So I think it just depends on where you're from in the country.
Yeah.
So if you're a poor person, you're going to feel more connected to Americans because it's what you know. But if you're a rich American, you're going to feel more connected to a rich person in Netherlands than a poor person in America, because you feel like you're above that. So I think that it depends on where you're from. But I think for the most part, phrase the question again.
Yeah, people are ultimately divided more by class than by nationality.
I think that yes, they are. I agree with that. Not strongly, but I do agree with that, because I think more times than not, whether you like it or not, and whether you know it or not, you are.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think I would actually strongly agree. I don't think nationality is as big a deal anymore. Globalization has really shifted that. I think there's still a lot of hatred across countries, but for example, Europe, for the most part, is pretty down to be friends with America, right? And so I don't think it has any issue with a German person at this point being friends with an American, but rich and poor, there's a lot more separation. Yeah. Anyway, next question. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. This is an economic question, and I know you're not an economic expert, but you may still have an opinion on it.
I would agree.
Yeah?
I think that inflation can, from what I know, it can tear up the market if it gets too high and you create a bubble.
Yeah.
And that's what this past week was about. Apparently, stocks fell 4%, 4.2%.
It's been horrible.
And that's the largest in a long time, but apparently it's still minuscule percent-wise to Black Friday. In 28 or whatever it was.
2008, yeah.
Yeah, so apparently this is supposedly the old, correct me for whatever I'm missing, the person who controls it just retired, the lady.
Yeah, Janet Yellen. She retired. She was the Fed board member, chair.
And apparently this is hopefully getting the air out of the bubble, which I've heard from a lot of people.
Yeah, this is a market correction. We're hoping, not a total downturn. We're hoping just a slight drop, and then we can go back to steady incline, not what we've been doing, which we've had huge gains.
Which with me, I don't fully understand it and the process and the mechanism. I understand the Dow Jones, which apparently the Dow Jones can go up. It's not even a really good indicator, because
it's only 20 stocks.
Yeah, it's only 20 stocks, and when one bottoms out, another one steps in.
Yeah. So
you could have 20 that are just doing unbelievably good, but the entire American market is going to crap.
Yeah.
So the Dow Jones really means nothing in my book. But, yeah.
Okay. I don't know if that answers the question, but we don't know enough about inflation or unemployment policy to actually talk about it, so I think we're going to move on. Yes, it's important to control unemployment, but how do you without just forcing people to hire people, and that doesn't work. Yeah. So, because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulation.
Wow.
There's your question. Knock it out of the park. Hit me with it.
I think that they have to be regulated. I wish that people's hearts were good enough,
of course,
to not have to, but greed speaks louder than anything, especially in the American culture where we want bigger, we want better, we want more money.
Yeah.
I was reading a book this morning that talking about how food, when you lose food, is so much more important than gold, money, or anything.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I've gotten into farming. It's because I think food is so important, and currency is money is basically like a privilege, or it's a convenience to have money rather than food or bartering or trading. And I think that when it comes down to whether a company is going to make money and destroy the environment, they'll take the money and destroy the environment as long as they're not held in check. Yeah. And so we have to hold people in check. The only problem is when you have the EPA compromised by a president, I can't even go into that, by a system which doesn't care about the environment, and the EPA is being pushed to let things go, and then when they don't let things go, you fire the person who's in charge of it, and then you put your own person in charge of it, so they will let things go. Yeah. I think that when the whole system is corrupt, then you're definitely going to destroy the environment more. But that being said, hopefully this causes a bigger uproar for the environment.
Do you strongly agree?
I strongly agree that there has to be regulation, because we cannot trust businesses and corporations and, in essence, capitalism, capitalistic businesses to care about the environment when the bottom line is all they care about and the only thing they look at.
I don't think you're wrong. I agree. I think the issue is, where I don't strongly agree, is that regulations tend to limit investments by companies, right? Yeah. And these companies are not going to invest in more green policies ever if they're being restricted by it. Yeah, they'll do whatever the bare regulation minimum is, but they're not going to push to, like, how can we really change our company? Like, how can Amazon get rid of cardboard boxes, right? That would be amazing, but they can't right now because they don't care. And I think as the world is shifting, as we're becoming more liberal, more progressive in the environmental sense, I think mindset, eventually these companies will have to start investing, regardless of whether they want to and their heart says to appease the market and to appeal to consumers. They're eventually going to go that way.
Once people start treating what they buy like a vote for presidency, which is one of my big proponents of my life, is what everything you buy is your vote. And if I don't agree with you wrapping your product in plastic, I'm not going to buy it. Yeah. And if the people demand it, you got to give the people what they want. Yep. And until the people want this environmentally friendly packaging or organic food friendly to the environment to put nutrients back in the soil instead of destroy it, it's not going to happen. So a lot of it, you're right, falls on what the market wants,
what the consumers are after. Yeah. And I think you're right. Voting with your wallet is a popular ideal, and it's hard to do with how cheap is Walmart, right? How cheap is Amazon? Yeah. It's hard to live otherwise. But all right, so next we're going to talk about from each according to his ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. Have you ever heard that phrase?
No, I have not.
So that is communism. It is the thought behind Marxism, right? Oh, yeah. It is from each according to his ability. Everyone should provide what their ability says. And to each according to his need. Everyone should have what they need.
Yeah.
Is a fundamentally good idea. Not whether or not... Yeah, you go.
I think that if we start out with, if we spread the love of Jesus and the love of God, then capitalism would not be possible to begin with, and Marxism would not be needed. Yeah. So... what I'm trying to say is, if we cared for one another like the early Church of Acts, then we could not have capitalism, because greed would not be an option. And capitalism only works when you get bigger and bigger and bigger and make more and more and more. And you can't do that when you're loving others as yourself. Yeah. And then Marxism wouldn't be a need. We wouldn't have to distribute the money evenly, because we would just do it ourselves. Mm-hmm. So I strive for a place where capitalism is not possible and Marxism is not needed. Okay. But I think, say that quote again.
From each according to his ability to each according to his need is a fundamentally good idea.
I think that it is a fundamentally good idea when we do it just like the last topic we were talking about, when the people demand it.
Yeah.
When we love others as we love ourselves, that's when it's a good idea, not when it's being regulated.
Yeah.
Because you can't look to politics or a few men sitting on Capitol Hill to make that decision. You have to have a community who's buying in.
So do you agree or strongly?
I agree.
Okay. So I strongly agree that it's fundamentally a good idea. It's a common thing that we were taught in high school even, that communism's perfect on paper, right?
Yeah.
But because we live in a broken world, because of sin, because Adam and Eve chose to fail, the world is not perfect and people are not perfect. And therefore communism cannot exist because we are too greedy and selfish and self-centered to really love each other properly and provide for each other.
Yep.
And so it's fundamentally a good idea. Is it possible in our world? Nah, I'd argue probably not.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it's so tainted. It's so taboo now too. Because the second I told my mom once, she said it's a good idea. I said, well, communism is a great idea too.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work because we live in a fallen world. She said, you may want to watch you say that too. I'm like, it's the truth.
It is true.
So, such a taboo thing.
Yeah, especially in America.
Yeah.
So this one is an interesting question, I think. It's a sad reflection on our society that something as basic as drinking water is now a bottled, branded consumer product.
Yeah.
Strongly agree?
I strongly agree. I'm not saying we need to drink raw water as the new hippies, hipsters like to do, whether it be raw milk or raw water. That gets ridiculous. But I think that the fact that it's bottled in Aquafina and everything else to try and market you for cleaner water can be ridiculous. That being said, there's a ridiculous amount of fracking in the world, which gets nitrogen into our aquifers.
Yeah.
And that's carcinogenic.
Yeah.
The nitrogen that is caused from fracking in states like Texas and California and New Mexico, there's a huge amount of the nitrogen that they're trying to get out. They only extract about 1/3 of the nitrogen that they're looking to extract in some of these natural gas excursions and what they're trying to do. But a lot of that nitrogen seeps down into aquifers. So there's a place for it, but I think the place for it, for the bottled water and whatnot, is only needed because of the problems that we've created. So there should be a market for it, but it should be understood that it's clean water.
I disagree. I believe that it is not so much sad because our society is built on capitalism in America. And so the idea of selling it is just basic business. If there's a market for it, sell it. I don't care. That's fine. What's sad is that clean drinking water is not available for everyone to begin with.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily an easy fix. And
whether you're in Des Moines, where I don't know if you heard about that. So between Flint, Michigan, and Des Moines,
Flint.
Des Moines had a big problem because they had contaminated water with their nitrogen base from fracking and trying to extract natural gas.
That sucks.
From the ground. So, it's a problem that we have come into, and it's sad that we can't get fresh water when it is abundant.
Yeah.
There's a possibility when we waste all the water on avocado fields in California. Because
avocados are good for you. Apparently.
The people demand avocados, but they're not even meant to be in California.
Right.
They're supposed to be in tropic wetland where it's warm all the time. So, I think there's enough for our need, but not enough for our greed. And I think our greed has formed a problem where we're doing the best that we can. And now we need regulations. Now we need bottled water because we can't supply everybody's need unless we do that.
I really like that.
Yeah.
Satisfy our need, not our greed. Yeah. All right. So land should not be a commodity to be bought and sold.
Oh, now we're getting into my not Wendellberry, but my Henry David Thoreau.
Yeah.
I'm a child of Thoreau.
He's a philosophy student, you know.
Oh yeah, it's some good stuff. He couldn't even build a garden because he felt like he was taken away from the animals and land. It wasn't his land.
Oof.
So that's taking it to the polar
end of it. As far as you can go.
So I mean, to say like you don't own land. He escaped the city to get into the wild to experience it. He didn't own the land. He didn't know anything. It was just him in the wild. That being said, I think that we can buy land.
Yeah.
I mean, in today's society and where we are, I get that it's nature and it's everything, but I think that we can buy it, we can own it because of our intelligence. I think that if a monkey is able to be as intelligent as us one day, then maybe he can buy it from us as well. But I think that we can buy it as long as we treat it right.
Okay. So you agree?
I agree.
Well, you disagree. It should, because it shouldn't be a commodity. You say it should be. Okay. Yeah, I disagree too. It's interesting. Who owned land to begin with, right? Like, who was able to sell it ever?
Well,
let's say God created the earth, right? Who was like, all right, now I was here, so I'm going to sell this to you.
It's
like,
staking a flag like on the moon or
it's so interesting. Anyway.
Yeah, well, I get my opinions in a wad because of the whole Indians being in America and us taking it.
Native Americans for the record.
Native Americans, and so it's just we don't deserve this land if we go by that thought, and if we're Christians, how in the world do we take it from him when God loves all of his children and all of his people, and then we just go and bring smallpox and
we weren't trying to though, it just happened.
Yeah, it just happened, right? So.
It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society.
Yes.
Strongly agree?
Yeah. It's so sad that someone can be... it's awesome that you can have a great idea and be successful. What I find devastating is that you can tap into somebody's evolutionary need to survive and be lazy at the same time, and... whether you can tap into McDonald's and not add anything into the health of Americans, but only increase diabetes and cardiovascular disease and make a killing off of it because you had one good idea, but it didn't really help. It just fed empty calories. But that's another tangent. Yeah. But the fact that you can do so little and make so much is a big problem to me.
All right, Anne Hathaway from Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah. Do so much.
Yeah. So I also strongly agree. The 2008-2009 financial crisis was largely built on poor manipulations of money that were simply taking advantage of poor people, essentially, who thought they could get this awesome credit, and we took advantage of them. People who shouldn't be able to buy houses as big as they could buy. And then people, we were betting. We weren't even worrying about the actual loan. We were betting on the loan, and so this really led to a destruction of the real estate market and eventually the entire global economy.
Every time someone says I say something and they're like, "That's a crazy idea, Keith," they write me off so quick. I said, "Yeah, you probably wrote off all the people on credit in 2008.
Yeah,
before that bubble popped.
Yeah,
so I mean, it's a real thing. Like there's some crazy ideas, but just because you don't agree with them, or the world is going one direction, doesn't mean that there's not going to be a bubble to pop.
Right. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trade. Do you understand what protectionism is?
Yeah, I'm guessing like insurance.
No, it's the more of like tariffs. So we charge tariffs on washing machines. I think was the most recent one. We said new washers coming from outside to get an extra tax, so to encourage our domestic sales.
Yeah, it was washers and something else.
Yeah, it was washers and something else. I can't remember what it was.
The other thing was weird.
Yeah, I thought washers was weird. I was like, why? Solar panels. It was
solar panels. Yeah, it was solar panels.
Yeah.
And not only does that hurt the Chinese, because 90% of the solar panels created are in Japan, but it kills American solar panels. The installers, because they're not able to install them
because no one's buying them anymore because they're not cheap.
Yeah, exactly. So no one's buying them, so they can't install them. So these American solar places are going out of business just to fund the coal, which is tearing apart our environment.
Yeah,
and it's such a horrible, horrible thing that's driving. Yeah, it's sad, but yeah. Protectionism
is it sometimes necessary in trade?
I think that it is sometimes necessary, so I agree. I'll give the instance of honey.
Okay.
Honey was being eaten in America at an alarming rate. Mm-hmm. So the Chinese figured that out and they started making honey. Mm-hmm. But they couldn't make enough honey for Americans to eat.
Right.
So they were making like synthetic honey.
Right.
And filling half of it with honey and half of it with like sugar. Mm-hmm. And then they were selling it to America. Well, the American market figured that out and was like, we need to charge more and we can only accept this much. But then the Chinese started sending their honey to Malaysia, putting a different stamp on it, and sending it to America.
Sneaky.
So it still got here, but we had a tariff on it from China just to bolster our own economy.
And try to protect consumers from...
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they were trying to do the right thing, protect them, but then you had in the Bureau of Protective Trade, you had it was some German CEO or CFO who was kind of infiltrated in a bad egg. And that's a different story. But I think that sometimes it can protect the consumer. But it's like we said earlier. There's enough for everybody's need, but not enough for everybody's greed. Thank you, Gandhi, for that one.
Thank you, Gandhi.
I think that the corruption of putting a fake product from China to America because of the greed of money was founded because of the greed for something that tasted so good and eating it all the time.
Yeah.
So I feel like one kind of deserved the other.
Okay. So, next. And we are still only halfway through page 2, and there's 6 pages. So we can either speed up or split this into 2 parts. We'll figure that out later. But continue to answer as you are. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders.
No.
Strongly disagree?
Strongly disagree. We've already talked about that.
Yeah.
Environment, to the moral thing to do. So let's go on to the next one. I think we all know that.
I'm going to go ahead and say I also disagree, but not strongly, because finance teaches us that that's all the companies exist for, is to provide profit for the shareholders. And the way the economy is built requires that. And so, yes, it leads to destruction of property, it leads to destruction of consumers' lives. It is not healthy at all. For a business to exist, it almost is required to some degree. So, but I only slightly disagree. All right, anyway. The rich are too highly taxed.
Currently? Now?
Yeah, I mean, new tax plan, I guess, but just in general.
I think yes. And the reason I think yes...
Agree or strongly?
I barely agree.
Okay.
Is because you can't expect to get off just to jump on the backs of all the rich people in America, and it turns into socialism, which turns into Marxism. So quickly when you just start taxing everyone, it turns into communism.
Yeah.
You can't expect that, but if it comes down to if you loved everybody, it wouldn't be a problem. So I keep coming back to that, but I think that you hear the redundant answer, love is the answer, right? But heavens to Betsy, I think it may be.
I strongly agree.
Really?
But my reasoning is I'm a proponent of a flat tax rate. Everyone pays the same percentage on their income. And so, at the end of the day, the rich are, on a dollar basis, putting in way more. I just don't think it should be it's progressive tax rate, where the rich are taxed at a higher percentage rate than the poor. Yeah. It should just be flat.
Yeah.
Keep it simple. And also, I just think the government needs to spend less and worry less about taxes, because if we spent less, we wouldn't have to need as much.
Yeah.
Okay. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care.
Man.
Yeah, it's a good question.
What a great question. I say false. No, I disagree.
Okay.
I don't strongly disagree. I did work very recently at a Christian nonprofit medical clinic where we provided premium health care to uninsured patients, and all that was due to the generous donations from the city of Columbus, and the people who cared about the underserved population. I think that there is a barrier, education-wise, ethnically wise, where people are caught in a rut and they don't have the chance for better healthcare due to situations that they can't choose, whether it be their nationality, whether it be their family that they didn't choose, and they can't afford to have the healthcare. They fall through the cracks, and that's not fair. That being said, a lot of things aren't fair in this world, and you can't expect everything to be fair. But I think that everybody deserves to have the same quality of healthcare.
Okay.
I do, and I also don't think that everybody should go to the ER whenever they get sick every time.
Goodness gracious, no.
But yeah, I think everybody deserves to have the same healthcare. That being said, I don't know how to implement that.
It's a hot topic.
It's a hot topic. It's a hard topic, and it's something that I have not figured out, even though that I've worked in healthcare. But you see the love in people's eyes. You see their need. You see the humanity in people's eyes, who are rich, poor, and anywhere in between, and that they deserve the same, I think.
Okay. I'm going to just continue on. I don't want to get into that. Governments should penalize businesses that mislead the public.
Yes.
Strongly?
I strongly agree with that.
I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, that's straightforward. Let's go ahead and...
Yeah, consumers should be respected, and if a business is lying to them, that's a problem. Right?
Yes.
Though I do say that consumers should be knowledgeable. You should look into your own stuff. Okay. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predatory multinational companies to create monopolies. Now that's a tongue-tying loaded question, right?
But it's just monopolies in other nations shouldn't be allowed.
I guess what it's saying is, should we allow big companies to combine and dominate a market?
AKA Bayer aspirin,
AKA Disney, AKA Johnson & Johnson, AKA any of those big companies that have bought up huge numbers of brands that we know are all aware of. Kraft owns like Pop-Tarts, Oreos, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
It's just, they're huge companies that may not be multinational, or they are multinational, which means they're in international waters too, right? Mm-hmm. Should we allow, if it's going to be a genuine free market, do we have to restrict them from combining? Or is a real free market allowing them to do what they want and combine and buy others?
I think a free market's allowing them to do what they want, but
gosh, it's destructive.
At some point, that's just so destructive, and it's so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a hard thing to answer. I think I agree.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah. All right. The freer the market, the freer the people. I hated this question the first time I read it. I don't like it. I don't like how I answered it. I don't know how to answer it properly. So that's my opinion.
I agree that the freer the market, the freer the people. That being said, a lot of times the freer the market, the more deceiving the market is.
Yeah.
And I don't like deceiving markets. And I think that a deceiving market is not free to the people.
Okay, page 3. Now we're going to look at some social values.
Mm-hmm.
Abortion, when the woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal.
I think that is a case between whether it is murder or not. I know that it's the woman's body, but it's also the baby's body. And that baby did not ask to be brought into the world. And I've taken classes on this, embryology and whatnot, and I know when a baby is alive and when it's not. And when that zygote is formed, that baby is alive and is a person, and it has humanity. So I think that, if the mother's life is not in danger, that baby cannot be killed.
Okay.
Because that baby is a person. I view it as murder, and I know it's the mom's life, and I know I'm a white male, and I will never be able to understand the trauma of having a baby and being pregnant and everything that goes along with that. But my personal views show that is a God-inspired child.
Yeah.
And whether, I know it's so hard, whether rape or incest is involved.
Gosh. It's hard.
I cannot imagine Down syndrome to retardations to stillbirths and, not ectopic pregnancy because that's when the mom's in danger, but everything that goes along with that's so profound and hard, and the fact that we can actually control whether that baby lives or dies is just insane to me.
Yeah.
I would have to, I guess, disagree.
Should always be illegal. So strongly agree, right?
I agree.
Yeah, I just agree.
I just agree. I mean, there's so many facets of that are so hard.
Yeah, abortion's a really tricky topic, and we're men, so we're not in the place to talk about it. Yeah. All we can do is say that we are Christians and we believe that a baby's life should be protected, and so it's a hard issue. All right, we're going to move on. All authority should be questioned.
Yes.
Strongly agree?
I strongly agree.
All right, stick it to the people. Anarchy.
Yeah, let's say yes. Everyone should be questioned. You have to keep a balance in checks. I mean, that's what Americans built on in a not so great way. You have to keep it on check. You always have to be questioning. You have to be informed, whether the buyer is informed or the market's informed or the company. I think that we deserve answers for steps taken.
Yeah.
And we should be able to question our leaders and whether they made the right choice. I know that in my work, the work I've done, I've been questioned on why I've done stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
I strongly agree.
I'm with you. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth.
An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth.
That's all it has.
Leaves the whole world blind.
Thank you.
And unable to chew any type of durable food.
Right.
I think that is easily explained with the scandalous grace of God.
Oh, it's scandalous.
The scandalous grace. to have a person who killed Christians be the greatest proponent to Christianity that the world's ever seen.
Yeah.
And then you have guards that beat Paul, turned to faith, and I think grace answers that. So an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind, and I think that whether it be 10 times or 10 times you deserve 10 times your punishment, maybe you deserve that.
Yeah.
But that's not what should be given, because that is that turns into a terrorist attack, turning into an anti-terrorist invasion and war and millions of people dying.
Yeah. So you strongly disagree that should be the okay. I'm with you. God overthrew that when he sent Jesus down, and we got that grace. Yeah, Old Testament, yeah, old law, sure, but now we're past that.
Yeah.
Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters, not movie theaters like Springer kind of thing, or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis alone.
I disagree.
Strongly or just regular?
Just regularly.
Yeah.
I don't think I know much, but I think entertainment and community is built on that, and that makes it better for the taxpayer. I think that's.
I agree.
It's good for the economy. It's good for the entertainment, and that's part of the living.
Yeah, people wouldn't be willing to go to an art museum and pay consistently, but people are willing to go to an art museum and wander around if it's free. I'm not saying it's common, but it's at least more likely for people to go and experience that sort of art or development of a quality person.
Yeah,
if it's free or at least subsidized.
Yeah, I agree.
Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory.
Compulsory?
Mandatory. Should you be required to go to school as a kid?
Oh man, that's a question I've thought about, but I've never really answered myself.
Yeah. Should a parent be able to say, "Nah, you don't need to go"?
I mean, that comes into the vaccine thing. Can you tell a parent what to do with their kid just to make them smart? I don't think so.
You don't think it should be required?
No.
Okay. Disagree strongly.
I think that you have to keep parents who don't care about their kids, like neglecting them, in mind, and you shouldn't let that happen. But I don't think you should have to send your kid to school if you're teaching them in other ways and you're not neglecting them. And defects doesn't need to be called.
Right.
But if they're learning in their own aspects, then yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. It's an interesting question. I like it. All people have their rights, but it's better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind.
Strongly disagree.
They like to sneak these questions in to see if they're going to catch a racist out here answering.
Yeah. Exclamation point, strongly disagree.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children.
Yes.
Strongly agree?
Strongly agree.
On board. I mean, we can get into it, I guess, but it's really as simple as if a kid's being bad, they're not going to learn right or wrong. As simply.
Yes.
Strong words don't impact a child that much because they don't understand strong words.
Strongly disagree.
No. That was me talking. I'm saying, like,
okay.
a spanking sometimes necessary. Strong words aren't going to cut it.
Okay.
All right. It's natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents.
Natural?
Yeah.
Yeah, strongly agree.
Okay. I agree. I think we can move on.
Yeah.
People have their own lives. You're going to keep some stuff.
Yeah.
Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense.
I start off by saying that I think that alcohol is worse than marijuana, and I think caffeine is almost worse than marijuana.
Hot take.
I think that caffeine is very much a drug,
Yeah.
and that people use it for their own personal manner. And I think that there's a taboo and that people call it a gateway drug and whatnot just because you smoke it.
Right.
But I think you don't get addicted. You get addicted to like just doing it because it's what you do, but you don't get actually addicted to weed
Right.
itself. It's not like nicotine. It's not like alcohol that can tear up your liver in 10 years if you drink too much.
You get a mental addiction in a word, but not a physical dependence.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
don't
very
have a
much
physical need for it.
So, I think that it's kind of a paradox question where if you think that it's all right to do with alcohol, I think it's all right to do with marijuana.
And as someone who drinks alcohol, you can say
Yeah.
you agree, right?
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, I'd rather have alcohol banned than marijuana. That being said, I've drank alcohol and I've never smoked weed, so I guess it's kind of a weird thing. Just because of
There's a bit of a stigma attached to it.
the stigma and the taboo thing that's connected to it. Yeah.
If it was legal, would you smoke it?
No.
Okay, I wouldn't either. So you strongly agree that it should not be a criminal offense?
No,
or just agree?
I agree.
Okay, I'm with you. At this point, it's headed that way anyway.
Yeah, it is.
The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. Is the point of education to get jobs?
I disagree.
Okay.
I think the point of education is to broaden your horizons and allow you to suck the marrow of life and not just to find jobs. Just finding jobs is redundant, and you need to find something that you love, whether that be not a job but just a way to live or to broaden your thought process or your horizons.
Yeah.
Is what it takes.
Learning to read is important. Learning basic math is important. These things aren't... Yeah, they help you for jobs, but they just help you make a person.
Yeah.
Become a person who's worth living. So...
Yeah, I agree.
Ooh, it's a hard question. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce.
False. I don't agree with that. I think that God made everybody equal, and that He intended to have people to live. And if you're able to make the choice to reproduce, then you should be able to.
Strongly disagree, or just agree.
Yeah, strongly.
Okay. I'm not gonna answer this one.
Oh, awkward.
The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline.
The hardest?
The most important thing for them to learn is to accept discipline.
No. I don't agree.
Yeah.
I think that is extremely important.
Yeah.
But I think that thinking for yourself and being your own individual person is the most important.
Yeah, developing a personality, and more importantly, just your character, right?
Yeah.
Who you are.
Yeah, your character as a person, and what you believe in, and that you have self-importance is very important. So I think there's a lot of things. That's not the most important.
There are no savage and civilized peoples, like savage or civilized. There are only different cultures.
Strongly agree.
Interesting.
I strongly agree because whether you look at people, that's the premise of racism.
Right. That
you can look back to somebody's past and see it, but everybody has the capability of being just as smart, I believe. Percentage-wise, if you take a village from a Germanic tribe and you take a baby and stick him in Rome, I think that he has just as much capability of learning with the Romans. So I think that's just you're a product of your society. But there's no, you shouldn't be racist whether someone's savage or from a tribe in Syria, or it lives in America.
Yeah, I think I agree. I don't have a full thought out yet. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society support.
Who are able to work?
Yeah, so if you're able to work and you refuse the opportunity, should you expect society support?
Oh my gosh,
The conservative heritage of our area says, be a Republican, right? You got to work, but
I think that we have to go back prior to the now and what's happening right now and them not working, and look to see what has caused this.
Yeah.
What's the causality? And if we can fix the causality, then we can fix this problem. So while I tend to say that we should not support him because that's his problem, he shouldn't do that. What have I done, or what have we done as a society to make it so he thinks that, or she thinks that they don't have to work?
right.
Even though they're able to. Have we poisoned the society or poisoned their minds, and or thinking that everything should be given to them?
Yeah.
Because of some mechanism that we've set up. I think that we need to first ask, how do we fix this problem in the future, and worry about that first before we worry about why they're that way. So I guess disagree. I think that's what the question was asking.
Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society support.
I disagree, because I think they should have it, because I think that there should have been something done prior. There was a misconnect in between.
Yeah.
And that's the fault of the society as a whole. And so they should be supported, but simply because we have failed as a society in bringing them up.
I think I'm with you. When you are troubled, it's better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things.
False. I think if you can't get over your problems, if you can't face your problems, then that is that's a defense mechanism that you've showed up in your head. It's going to cause a lot more problems in the future, and you need to be able to face your issues and face your problems. That's the only way that you can overcome them.
You strongly disagree?
I strongly disagree. Yeah.
Okay. First generation immigrants can never actually be fully integrated within their new country.
False as false can be. They can be very integrated and be great in society.
Okay. What's good for the most successful corporations or businesses is always ultimately good for all of us.
No.
Yeah, strongly disagree.
Strongly disagree. We've already beat that horse.
Yeah. The companies aren't looking out for the people, they're looking out for themselves. No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. Should NPR get public funding? Should PBS get public funding? Should any of these?
Say the question again.
No broadcasting institution, however independent its content is, should receive public funding.
I don't think I'm well enough equipped to answer this question. But I think that I agree. I think because I think it should be supported by the people who want it.
So let me challenge it. Why museums and theaters then?
No, well, you're right.
NPR is awesome.
No, you're right. It's for the people.
It's for the people. It's education.
So I guess I disagree then.
Yeah. I think I'm with you. In fact, I actually strongly disagree. But I insist upon independence of content. I do not allow the however independent. It needs to be independent.
Yeah.
We have enough partisanship in this country. It shouldn't be about that. It should just be, here's the news. Make of it what you will.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Okay.
All right. So that's the end of page 3. Would you like to pause and do a part 2 episode?
Yeah. Let's do a part 2.
Okay. So that's going to be it for now. We'll be back in a little bit.